when they expect you to work 70, 80, 90 hours a week. They can't do that now. They don't have enough talent to churn through to do that. But I was scheduled to go on a family vacation at the beach, and this had been scheduled for months. And we were in a scheduling meeting, and they said, you can't go on vacation. And I said, you know what? You can schedule me for whatever you want. I'm going to be at the beach. So, so, so I did. I went to the beach, and while I was at the beach, I called Elliot Davis and said, "Hey, I want to come work for you guys." And that was how that happened. But and then I went back. I went back to E&Y after my beach trip, and I quit.
Maybe they helped you in that transition, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. And I want to, without beating the horse to glue, right? Without getting so deep into the weeds, I'm always drawn to the person or folks that walk away, right, from, we were just in Charlotte over the weekend to see my beautiful Tar Heels win. And as we walked through Trade and Tryon, the big Bank of America building, I used to work in that building, and I was on the 50th floor, and I could see down into Panther Stadium from my office because it was so high up. And some days it was above the clouds, literally. And great job, Fortune 15 company. And my job was relocated from Charlotte to Atlanta. My wife said no, and I ended up leaving. And I remember that feeling of my little box, sort of like Michael Scott, everything in a little box, walking to the elevator, getting on the elevator, going down to the garage level, going to my covered parking garage, where life was good, big old fat salary, great benefits, unlimited T&E, life was wonderful. But I remember that moment of driving out of the garage, driving home to our house up north, thinking I'm unemployed because I chose not to do the Atlanta deal, right? And I remember that, and that was back 1997, so it's been a long, long time ago. But I still vividly remember that moment of thinking, how am I gonna? I've got two kids that really like to eat, and a wife that didn't work out of the home. How am I gonna make it, right? And looking back, it was one of the best days of my life, but also one of the scariest days of my life. And I never want to lose the impact of that moment because I find that moment, and maybe you did too when you left the big accounting firm, right? Never lose the impact of that moment. And a lot of people that are listening to us right now may be at the threshold of saying, you know what, I've done this for 20 years. I'm going to try something. I'm going to be an entrepreneur, but it's scary as hell to be an entrepreneur, right? And I think the more that we hold on to those nuggets of memory of leaving the cave, because you left the cave one day, the big office building with the nice fat salary and the great benefits, to start, Poe Group Advisors. And I don't know, and we don't have time to unpack, the first week, the first month, the first quarter, the first year. But I can imagine that being a scary moment, leaving the security of what you had to become the founder and CEO of your advisory group, right? That had to be scary.
It's so, yeah, it's scary. And there are a lot of scary moments. I think one of the scariest moments I had was during the financial crisis. That was probably more frightening. So what happened during that period of time is, it was 2008. My business from 2008 to 2010 fell in half, about half.
Mm.
And I remember when Lehman Brothers announced, I was actually in New York City on a little vacation with Carol, and I was in Times Square when I saw the big announcement that Lehman Brothers was, in trouble.
Oh my
And I
God.
thought, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
This can't be good.
Right.
And anyway, I was in 2010, I was down to like one deal.
Mm.
If that deal didn't close, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like the cash was going to dry up. Like it was that bad. So if you've ever been a business owner and um, you know, it's like being out of oxygen if you run out of cash, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that was probably the scariest. But yeah, honestly, leaving for me was scary, but I was very energized by it.
Mm.
Uh, when I started selling firms, um, I did it on the side. I was doing it sort of as an additional job. I was working at Nature's Calling, and I would come home and work at night. I would get up extra early in the morning and work. And so I kind of started into the business almost as a side hustle.
Mm.
So there once I finally when I left Nature's Calling, um, which was a great job as a controller. It was nice to work on both sides of as an accountant. I think there's an advantage of working in public and in private. So I was in a good spot, but I'd already kind of developed the business enough to where I knew I could make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was secure.
Yeah.
Where I felt the most insecure, which is kind of what you're talking about, was probably during the financial crisis.
Mm. What a tough crisis, right? Again, just being in Charlotte a few days ago, I'm not sure if Charlotte has fully recovered from
Yeah,
2008, as a financial center, right?
it felt like staring into the abyss. Like I felt like, you know,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
and you cope with it, right? I was running a lot then. That was how I coped with it. I would go for a run.
Yeah.
If I felt stressed, I'd run, and I got in pretty good shape, but I was pretty stressed.
Thin and stressed.
Yes, thin
Yeah.
and stressed.
Well, I know you. I know your heart. I feel like I know your heart. I don't want to be presumptuous, but I feel like I know your heart. And I think part of your heart is that of the heart of a teacher and working with entrepreneurs, right? And who better to work with entrepreneurs than a fellow entrepreneur? And I know you do a lot with the EO organization, which is tremendous. You travel a lot. I think you travel around the world for them, and you give a lot of your time because that organization is, really beneficial for entrepreneurs. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this show. I mentor some, as well in that environment, and I love the naivety, the rawness, the realness of an entrepreneur, particularly the ones that have left the cave and they've left a great amount of security on the shelf. And they go to their tool shed and say, I want to innovate. I want to create something. I want to make a difference for the world, for my state, my family, whatever the impetus is, right? To do something different, to create something, to make a difference. Talk to me just for a moment and talk to my audience, Brannon, about that desire and leaving that security. And for the folks that are listening right now that may be saying, I'm I'm ready to leave and to create, right? Talk to that person as if they're sitting in your living room with a glass of wine. What would you tell that person?
There's no other freedom that I can imagine that's more energizing and more scary and more rewarding than doing something on your own.
Yeah.
You know, when you first start, there is a startup phase, right? There is a startup phase when you're starting something. The first 2, 3 years, that to me is the most energetic period. And not everyone is that way, but I get very energized by the startup phase.
Mm.
Like I like it when there's chaos. I like it when there's so many unknowns, and you've got to just figure it out.
Mm.
And you learn a lot about yourself. That's the other thing, is not only does it give you freedom, but you do learn what you're made of,
Mm.
and you'll be surprised at your capabilities that just sort of, you may have things inside of you that are dormant in terms of skills and talents, and that just unlocks those things,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're pressure testing yourself in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not for everybody. I mean, it's just not for everybody. But if you know, I don't know that there's one type of entrepreneur. I'm a type of person that likes to be pretty independent. Um, I don't, I like to just make my own path.
Mm.
And I actually work with my team. I'm a great team leader for somebody who wants to work their own path, because I'm not much of a micromanager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I would encourage people to do it. Even if you fail,
Mm.
what you'll learn and gain from it
Yeah.
probably far exceeds whatever pain you endure.
Yeah.
But it can be painful. I've seen I've seen I've seen other entrepreneurs really crash and burn.
Mm.
And I wouldn't want that for anybody. And I think if you want to avoid that, then you need to surround yourself with other smart people. And that's what EO is really good for. And surround yourself with other people who are smarter than you in other things, because um you know you might be good at sales, or you might be good at engineering, or you might be good at something, but you don't have all the skills. So you gotta find people who do, so you're not making really stupid mistakes.
Yeah. You said something, I don't know if you remember this, a couple of months ago in your kitchen when you asked about my firm and, our business. Just we were enjoying wine and having a conversation, and you said, how's business going, or something like that. And I said, I feel like I'm that, in our at our point in our growth cycle, that we're sort of the Wild West frontier, because we're developing processes and we're recruiting people, and we're trying to find the parking lot and the water cooler, and things do seem chaotic, right, in the first couple of years of business. And you made a comment, and I don't think I'll ever forget the comment that you made. You said, "Oh, I'm envious because I loved the startup phase of our business." You're now over 20 years with Poe Group Advisors, but I saw that in your eye, the twinkle when you said, "Oh, I miss those days."
Yeah, it feels like you're not even working. To
Mm.
me, it feels like it's not even work, because everything's kind of has to be done. There's an urgency around things. And so you don't have to fight with your will. If you don't have to force yourself to do something, you just do it.
Yeah.
And it's creative. I think, that's the we launched Accounting Practice Academy in 2020. So that was a new segment of our business. And so when we started that, it felt like that startup phase. And it's just, you know,
Yeah.
we built it in the air, as they say. Like we had already sold some workshop seats before we had completely built out the workshop.
Mm.
So we didn't have any choice. We'd already sold tickets, so the show had to go on.
That's awesome, man. Well, I found that comment in your kitchen to be very encouraging. And, as any startup, even though I've had a couple of those in my own life, but as a startup, man, you've got some months where you've got a lot of month at the end of the money. You've got some days where you're thinking, what the hell am I doing? I have no clue what I'm doing, right? You have the good and the bad and the ugly as an entrepreneur. No day is the same, right, for any of us. And you just have to ride the waves of the good and the bad. And, what comes out of it is generally a wonderful product or service. a